Welcome back to the channel, my friends. Warhammer Man Studios. I'm Warhammer Man, and today we're going to be breaking down the Leagues of Votann Combat Patrol. This video is sponsored by CMO Games. More on that later. So today we're going to be taking a look at the Leagues of Votann Combat Patrol. We're going to be doing a breakdown focused first on the value of the box set, and then we're going to take a look at the points and composition as well, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we would do to expand the force. So first off, we have the contents of the Combat Patrol. So first we have the Kahl for $38. Then we have 3 Pioneers for $60. We have our 5 Beserks for $60. And then we have 10 Warriors at $55. If we go ahead and total that all up, it comes out to $213 MSRP. And the Combat Patrol comes in at $150 USD. So that's going to give us a savings of roughly 30%. Which is not bad, pretty in line overall with combat patrols. While it's not the best value out there, the composition is excellent. So I think this is a great box to start off Leagues of Votann with. It's very similar to the limited edition army box. It doesn't include the cards or codex like the army box does, and the army box doesn't have the 5 berserkers and does include 1 additional squad of the warriors. So having 1 of each is not a bad idea, especially if you're just getting started with them. So that being said, everything in this box is really nice and definitely going to make its way into your army. So the savings is fairly in line with most combat patrols, but the composition is excellent. So now that we've taken a look at the value and we know it has some pretty nice savings overall, let's take a look at the actual composition and point values. All right, so here we have our point values for everything. So one nice thing about the Leagues of Votann is that most of the units have quite a few options, so you can easily tweak the points to the upside or downside to make sure to fill out your army accordingly. So first we're going to start with the Kahl. Just a basic Kahl is 90 points, and then after that you have a lot of upgrades. You can upgrade to a high Kahl, which is a very good idea. You can buy some additional equipment for your Kahl, and there's even a special character, Uthar the Destined. Now, Uthar the Destined is restricted to the Greater Thurian League, which is a very good league, and Uthar is a very good character. If that's the league you're going with, I would definitely recommend taking him. If not, I would still upgrade my Kahl to a high Kahl. The Kahl is very good because he has a bunch of synergetic abilities. First, he has an aura that gives all of your core reroll 1s. And then he has a command ability that he can give to a character or a core unit to reroll all rolls to hit. You then have the ability to dish out judgment tokens, and depending if you're just going with the regular Kahl, the high Kahl, or with Uthar, a bunch of other awesome abilities as well. You're going to always want at least 1 of these in your army, and more likely than not, it's going to be a high Kahl. Next we have the Pioneers. The Pioneers come 3 in a set, and they are definitely your speedy units. They have a scout move before the game starts. They have the ability to go back into reserves or come from reserves, which is very cool and lots of diversity. They're fast, and despite their points cost, they're actually fairly durable and can dish out quite a bit of firepower as well. More often than not, you're probably going to be taking these in units of 3, but units of 6 are completely acceptable as well. You have the ability to upgrade a heavy weapon. You can take either a beam cannon or a rotary cannon. Honestly, I would always take that upgrade. And you have some other cool upgrades as well. This is definitely a very, very strong unit. And more often than not, you're going to want at least a couple of these in your army. Next, we have our Beserks. So the Beserks come in units of 5. You have the ability to build 1 of the Beserks as the mole launcher as pictured. All of the models, with the exception of if you upgrade to a mole launcher, can have their weapons changed out as well. You have the option to kit these out with concussion mauls, heavy plasma axes, or the concussion gauntlets. All of the options are very good and they're viable for different scenarios. This is your primary combat unit, and these guys are awesome. They have some pretty cool abilities like their 5-up shrug that really helps with durability, and it becomes a 4-up against damage 1 weapons. They have multiple wounds, and they always fight on death. So these guys can be a pain to deal with, and they're very good units for trading. You can also use them as counter charge if you're trying to keep your opponent away from you and they get a little too close. You can send these guys in to ruin your opponent's day. The Beserks are very good, and regardless of the points increases they have seen since the Leagues of Votann first come out, they are still excellent choices. And then next we have the Warriors. So the Warriors have the option to come in at 130 points or 187 points fully kitted out. You have a bunch of options with these to equip either your squad leader or heavy weapons. You have some other cool equipment like the medic as well. You even have the ability to swap out for ion weapons instead of their normal bolt weapons if you like. You're always going to be taking at least one squad of these guys in your army. So overall, love the composition. And if we total this all up, if we're going for the absolute cheapest possible, we're going to come in about 495 points. So right about that 500 point combat patrol. And if we fully kit them out, we're going to come out much closer to about 672 points, give or take. So realistically, depending what upgrades and weapon equipments you take, you're probably going to come in about 600 points with this set. So that being said, obviously it is a really nice set. The real question is, what would be better, having a second of this set or having the starter box? Honestly, I think a second combat patrol is actually better for composition because I really would rather have the extra 5 Beserks over another 10 of the warriors. If you were going to buy the launch box as well as the combat patrol, you're going to end up with 30 of the Hearthguard warriors and only 5 Beserks. As where if you bought 2 of the combat patrols, you would end up with 20 warriors and 10 Beserks. And I think that's much more realistic for what you would take. Either option is completely viable, but I definitely think having 2 of the combat patrols is a really nice army to get started with. And if we did go with 2 of those, we'd probably be coming in around 1,200 points or so. So if we're going to go ahead and fill out the army to around 2,000 points, some of the options I would go with are first the Grimnir. He's going to give you some psychic support and has a bunch of awesome abilities that really augment the rest of the army. Could help you out potentially with secondary objectives. And again, has the ability to be upgraded to the High Council and get some really cool stuff from that. And next we have the Iron Master. The Iron Master is similar to a Tech Marine. He allows you to shrug off some damage to your vehicles. He can take some pretty cool weapons himself. He comes with a little retinue as well and can offer some close combat and shooting support, kind of fill in the gaps a little bit. He is very good and substantially increases the durability of your vehicles. So if we're going to take him, obviously we're going to need a vehicle. And I think most Leagues of Votann armies are going to have at least one land fortress. So the land fortress is very good. It has the ability to swap out its top weapon. You can either take a very strong beam rifle or you have access to a railgun as well. Arguably the best railgun in the game. The land fortress is super durable. It has a nice transport capacity, so you can put some units in there as well as a character, get them where you need to be, or just pop them out when you need a counter charge. The land fortress is excellent. I definitely recommend at least one of those in your army. Arguably, you could take 2 of them. And now a quick message from this week's sponsor. This video is sponsored by CMOgames.com, where you can get 15% off most Games Workshop pre-orders, and they go live right at midnight Saturday mornings. CMOgames.com offers free shipping on orders over $25 in the US 48, and most orders ship within 24 hours. CMOgames.com has been selling Games Workshop products online for more than 20 years, and customer service is their top priority. CMOgames.com carries the full line of Games Workshop products, including 40k, Age of Sigmar, Kill Team, warcry, paints, hobbies, and tools. Visit CMOgames.com using the affiliate link in the description below so they know you heard about CMOgames.com from Warhammer Man Studios. Now, back to the video. And then finally we have the Sagittar as well. So the Sagittar is a little more of a transport, but it does have some nice shooting capabilities. Similar to a Space Marine Razorback, it can dish out a little bit of fire. It can carry a couple guys to where they need to be, and then you can get off some nice counter charges, take an objective, and various other useful abilities. One cool thing about the Sagittar is if you do take 2 of them, you can actually split up a 10-man squad into 2 5-man squads and then just start them in the Sagittars. So they operate as different squads throughout the game. This was a little more important when you were restricted more with the previous iterations on your selections. Now that we have the Arcs of Omen in effect, it's not as necessary, but it can be nice to have either squads of 5 warriors or squads of 5 berserks inside of the Sagittars ready to jump out and either steal an objective or dish out some paint. So overall, I think this is a great box, a great place to get started. This can go really well with the army release box as well, or you could just double down on a couple of these. I definitely think you're going to want to throw in a land fortress, and honestly, Leagues of Votann are super cool, super fun. And even though they have gotten quite a few nerfs on their points and also their abilities, they are still very good, very fun to play with, and definitely competitive. The main weakness of the leagues of Votann, in my opinion, is their inability to protect themselves against mortal wounds. So that is by far the worst matchup that you can have for leagues of Votann, is somebody that's dishing out a substantial amount of mortal wounds. The problem is your cheapest unit in the army is basically 13 points per wound, and that's your warriors. There's a couple other things close around that level, but you don't have any actual like cheap chaff that can essentially like take damage and stop those mortal wounds from basically just picking up large swathes of your army. There is one league that offers some minimum protection, but honestly, it's just not good enough overall to compel you to take it. I think you're either going to want to take the Greater Thurian League for Uthar and some of their other cool abilities, or I personally like the Ymir Conglomerate. I think it's probably the best overall, as it does provide all of your units with either a 5-up invulnerable save, or if they have a 2-up save, it gives them a 4-up invulnerable save. There's also some other cool abilities as well. I don't think there's a clear 100% winner, but I think Ymir Conglomerate is probably the best, and slightly behind them falls the Greater Thurian League. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video and you got some value out of it, and you're ready to jump in with Leagues of Votann. Special thanks to CMO Games for sponsoring this video. Make sure to check them out. Link in the description to save 15% if you're going to be picking up any of these Leagues of Votann. Warhammer Man Studios, I'm Warhammer Man, and that's our Leagues of Votann Combat Patrol breakdown, and I'm out of here.